Senior Bowl edge rushers Laiatu Latu from UCLA can become EDGE1 of the 2024 NFL draft class. If he does what at the Senior Bowl, we're going to tell you this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being out every day, man. We love and appreciate y'all. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and senior draft analyst, and I got to kick this introduction over to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ with those LSU Bengal Tigers. What, man, the other side of this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, where we talk everything college football, we talk everything NFL football, and we like to say, man, it all starts with the NFL Draft. So I want to say shout out to our everydays. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And like we like to do, man, comment after every segment. And don't forget to hit the like button. DP, Senior Bowl scouting, man. We are scouting these edge rushers. Like we said, we have the quarterbacks. We need somebody to go take them down, man. And we have a very talented edge group at the Senior Bowl that we will be watching. So we're going to start with UCLA's edge rusher Laiatu Latu. Then we're going to the unsung hero of this Alabama defense, man. Unfortunately, he was stuck in between Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, right? We're talking about Alabama edge rusher Chris Braswell. And then we're going to finish this thing up with Houston edge rusher, one of my personal favorite players, Nelson Ceasar. But DP, before we get that started, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Edge rush out of UCLA, Laiatu Latu. He can become, we did this or that about a month and a half ago. Feels like an eternity ago. But we talked about him versus Jared Verse. And Keith, for me, when we talk about him, and we've talked about him a few times, Laiatu Latu is the most polished, that phrase, ready to go in the NFL, day one starter type. Like, he is the most ready pass rusher in this class. From hand placement, hand usage, counters, he's so technically refined and just crafty. He has the game of a guy who's been in the league 5 to 6 years, who's seen all the tackles and know all the drops and the jump sets and all the different things that he'll see at the NFL level. And he puts that all in, and then his motor is nonstop. Like, this guy will throw counters, he will reset hands, he will spin, he will chop, he will rip, he will do everything possible to get into the backfield. And he had, like, his dip and bend is incredible. Like, he's very flexible, agile, fluid. How can he, but what does he need to answer for me at the Senior Bowl? Well, two guys that I watch him against on tape is going to be down there. Oregon State's right tackle, Talise Fuaga, and then Arizona's left tackle, Jordan Morgan. Both of these guys were successful in keeping him out of the backfield. So, number one, I need to see him win those one-on-ones. Because it's like, hey, this is familiar territory when you walk up to into the one-on-ones and you see both of those big boys who you know you faced already, right? So I want to see him kind of not expecting to dominate those reps, but I want to see him win those reps one-on-one, right? You know, Talise, you don't got a guard to be your bumper inside. I got a two-way going. Jordan Morgan, same thing. Can y'all keep me out of the backfield in one-on-ones? That's number one. Number two, my biggest concern with him, and I grade him a high first rounder, but it's the run game, right? It's the run game against these physical, strong tackles like Jordan Morgan, like Talise Fuaga. None of the guys from USC fit that mold, but because he dominated USC. But when you watch him against these two guys, I watch him get moved off the ball, Keith. I watched Talise Fuaga come off the ball, get his hands latched, and work Laiatu Latu off the line of scrimmage. I watched Jordan Morgan do the same thing. he's got to answer the bell in the run game. Now, I think Jim Nagy said on Twitter, he's got 32 and like 3/4 inch arms. So that does play up, like you see that show up on tape where he doesn't have that reach advantage, right? So I just want to see him answer those two, like just kind of handle those two tasks. When you see the two guys that play well against you, win those matchups. And against the run, hold the point of attack.
Yeah, you know what I'm looking forward, DP, even in his pass rush, right? And obviously we're talking about a high caliber player. We're dissecting, right, and we're poking at minor details. I want to see it a little bit more of a freestyle element to it, right? I think that, and don't get me wrong, highly skilled, highly talented. I think he's a double-digit sack guy, but I think also like he goes in with a plan, right? And then executes that exact plan, which is credit to him, right? A lot of guys, a lot of edge rushers, DP, I've written so many reports where I'm like, these guys don't even have plans, right? He has a plan, though, to go to execute, but I would like almost the counter move, right? To, hey, if I get there and I see that this initial plan isn't working, okay, let me get a backup plan, right? And that's what I just want to see. And like you said, so the one-on-ones, I think that'll be very important to him, right? Because I don't want it to be to where it's a predetermined type situation, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna go cross chop with a spin after this, right? Man, listen, if the cross chop not working, and then you get there and you're like, okay, I have to go with someone different, or if they just give you, free access around the arc, and it's like I'm gonna just beat them around the arc also. So I just want to see, just get a vibe for him, because what you see is so high level, right? But I just want to just get a different vibe for him as a person, right? And then also with the coaching part of it, because when when you're standing there, you see the players interact with the coaches, right? You can hear what the coaches are telling them, and I want to catch that vibe and just see what that part is looking like. But highly skilled, highly talented player, man. And I know, the guy training them, Coach Ed, man, does a really good job training these guys for draft prep. And he released a video on Twitter when he talked about just showing him going through the bag drills, and I'm like, man, it's very rare that these bag drills, right, translate exactly to the game, how the player executes them. But that's exactly how Laiatu Latu executes the bag drills. Is exactly how he does it in the game, right? His process to getting sacked. So I definitely want to check that out for Laiatu. And like you said, because right now I think I have Jared Verse as a close 1A, 1B type situation. Because I do think Laiatu has the best hands, but I think Jared triggers an element of speed to power, right, in his game that is still going to be intriguing to a lot of teams. So I just want to, like I said, get a body profile of Laiatu Latu and check him out and get a different perspective of him outside of, okay, he's a great hand technician, and then what else does he do, right, outside of the hand technician part of it?
He's they're polar opposites in terms of like rushers, right? Like, where like you said, Jared Versus that thickly built, dense, strong. Like, I mean, we saw the reps at the end of the season when Jordan Travis goes down. The defense needs to step up, and back-to-back games, he put a left tackle at the feet of the quarterback, just bull rushing, right? Like powerful. But then you look at Laiatu Latu, he's more of the, I would say the not the fastball, but he's more of the quick finesse rusher where he throws the ghost punch. He can really kind of ghost step a guy. Also, like that, like I said, the bend. I think Coach Ed he put a clip out where he's working on his bend and the ability to just get as low as possible and then spring up with quickness and suddenness. It's incredible to watch him just move. He's just a silky smooth mover where he gives you kind of that Euro step as well. It's going to be very fun to see, because like I said, body type for those guys is going to be vastly different too. You know what I mean? Where versus, like I said, that more stocky, stronger build, and Laiatu was more of the slender, slimmer build, right? So I think that's going to be big for him.
Yeah, and you know what else is going to help Laiatu Latu being at this event, DP, is that you talked about the two high-profile tackles that he's going against. You best believe, right, the NFL is going to take that. They're going to take in account of strength of competition, right, like who you're going against. And if his games weren't great against those tackles, right, what better way to showcase yourself than going to the Senior Bowl, right, where you're getting some of that SEC, you get some of the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, right? So that way you can totally eliminate the conversation that could potentially arise of the Pac-12, right? Oh, he was doing that to Pac-12 offensive tackles, and then the two good ones he faced, right? He struggled with a little bit, and just even the style of play, right? Like it's like, oh, well, Pac-12 drop back, they drop back all the time, and it's I know the statistics that say, but this is just a common thought that people are going to go to, right? Even not only the draft community, but the NFL, when they go to draft a guy, they're going to think about those conversations and those situations. But DP, let's keep going, man, with a guy, like I said, man, at University of Alabama, Chris Braswell, man, was stuck in between Will Anderson is stuck in between Dallas Turner, right? So didn't necessarily get the full amount of reps that you would expect, especially for a draft prospect, man. But, man, am I telling you, this guy is talented. So stay tuned, because I think Chris Braswell has a chance to be a starter in NFL next year.
This segment is brought to us by our sponsor, BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So today, I want to say how I really feel about something, and you might even be thinking about the same thing this week. Guys, it is Senior Bowl weekend. I get to travel this weekend to go to the Senior Bowl and really be able to scout players in person, and that is what excites me. I'm so excited. This is my job. This is my passion. This is what I love to do. So now the draft starts here on the Locked On NFL Draft, but it also starts at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, and I get to go there and have a great time. So listen, therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports teams, and it's important to get things off our chest every once in a while. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. All right, visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. We've wrapped up Christmas. We've wrapped up the NFL regular season, but the playoffs is here. And that means there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. All right. New customers get $150 in bonus bets back, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use, guys. There's so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and so much, and I mean so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup, because FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Chris Braswell from the University of Alabama. Keith, like you said, kind of unfortunate situation, being, alongside, being stuck between and behind, Will Anderson Jr. and Dallas Turner, two, high caliber pass rushers, right? But Chris Braswell is a really good pass rusher in his own right. Listed at 6'3", 255, a guy that's coming off a season in 2023, 33 pressures, 10 QB hits, 13 sacks, right? And he's, like we talked about with Laiatu, more of a slimmer build. He's got a little bit more of that powerful build to himself as well, Keith. So you did the deep dive on Chris Braswell. You graded him over at the Draft Network for us. So what are your, this is one of your guys. What are your thoughts on Chris Braswell? Tell the family what you like about him and what's something that, you need to see down at the Senior Bowl for him.
Yeah, for sure. I would say this, man. The good is high level good, right? It's back in the first round, top of the second round good. This is a guy like we talked about, the speed to power conversions, right? He has the hand counters repertoire built in him. Now, this is what I think where a lot of his career and production gets a little clouded, right? Because even we had this conversation with Will Anderson, we said that there's much more from a development perspective of him as a pass rusher. And I think you have to look at it. I think you could say somewhat of the same conversation with Dallas Turner. You have to look at it from two perspectives when it comes down to production. One, obviously him being in a heavy rotation with with Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, right? So your snaps are automatically cut in half. But then also, if we pay attention to this Alabama defense and the way they use their edge rushers, right? It's a lot of they will condense you inside of the tackle, right? Which is not an advantageous situation if you're an edge rusher, right? You're supposed to be on the edge, but they reduce you inside, right? Then you're talking about twists and stunts, right? And then you're also talking about, you can see these guys to where they understand that the run is their first priority, right? It's stop the run and then go after and get the quarterback. So you put him in situations where they're allowed to just go hunt first, and their mindset is more of go get the quarterback, and then I have other defenders to worry about getting, stopping the run and things like that. Then you can get a different situation. But I don't think we've seen the best of Chris Braswell as a pass rusher. So what I'm looking for, DP, in those one-on-one situations is just to see how dynamic he is, right? Because I'll even make this statement. Chris Braswell, from what I've seen in the limited amount of snaps on film, I like better than what I've seen from Isaiah Foskey from last year. I am more convinced of him as a pass rusher and in his ability than what I was with Isaiah Foskey coming out. I think it's a more clear evaluation. I want him to just fully paint the picture, though, because you see it in flashes. But if I can get you in one-on-ones and we're going against, some of these top tackles, like you said, the Jordan Morgans, the Troy Fontenus, right? And you can beat those guys. Oh man, it's stock all the way up, right? Because we were looking at you as, and that's the misnomer around him, right? We're looking at you as the backup guy at Alabama, but truthfully, you were just in an unfortunate situation. You're actually a starter. You actually could be a second, third round pick, and we're going to draft you in that place, and you can play in the NFL at a high level. So I'm looking for those one-on-ones just to see how dynamic he is off of the edges, because in flashes, I've seen some really good things.
No, I'm with you, Keith, and I think you see. Like I said, speed to power to hold him at the point of attack in the run game. He shows the ability to kind of like hold up, and then he gives that push-pull technique where he's this is a strong dude on the edge, and I'm with you. What I want to see from him is I want to be able to gauge that explosiveness, that first step quickness. Is he going to be more of a guy that needs a pass rusher that needs a good secondary, right? In terms of he may not be the quickest winner, or is he a guy that can actually win in the quick game? Whereas like he can get past the outside shoulder, right? Beat the tackle with speed and quickness without having to, be as physical at the point, at the point of attack with guys. I want to see what that first step quickness really looks like in those one-on-ones. And is he more of a, in your opinion, Keith, is he just a scheme versatile guy where he's like, 2-point stance in the 3-4 off front? Or is he more of a, or can he also do 4-3 hand in the dirt guy? What kind of rusher do you expect him to be at the NFL?
Yeah, it's tough, man. I think he can play in both, right? But I really see him as one of those heavy-handed 3-4 outside linebackers. Like I think about a Boye Mafe, and then what's our guy out of Auburn that we liked last year? Derek Hall. I just think about those heavy-handed rushers where I don't think he's a guy that you may necessarily want to pencil him in for double-digit sacks every year, right? But I almost want to say that I feel good about 8 to 9 sacks, right? Just something like that. And I think he can be a scary 1-2 punch, right? You just think about if the Baltimore Ravens or, potentially the Pittsburgh Steelers, just those teams that historically draft really well, and they run those, they run those 3-4 schemes. I even think about your guy from the New York Giants, Azeez Ojulari, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he's had some injuries, but I think that the start of his NFL career and where he's peaked was better than what his career was at Georgia, right? As far as him being labeled as a pass rusher, I really like those two. I like the Boye Mafe and I like the Azeez Ojulari comps for him as a pass rusher.
That Azeez one, that hits home. I like that Azeez one a lot. The Boye Mafe one's interesting because I think Boye is like really quick twitched off the line, a little bit, just a little bit more explosive. But that Azeez, I think the build is similar to Azeez. The speed, the power game. Like now that you mentioned Azeez Ojulari, I see that a lot. And hopefully with Chris Braswell, he can actually stay, he can stay healthy so we can see the full just kind of fruit of the labor, right? Watch him develop and grow. But I'm excited to see him because it seems like in this edge class, he's one of the guys that's not talked about a lot. You know what I mean? He doesn't get a lot of the fanfare.
And no, not at all. And when you watch them, and that's why I'm glad we're talking about him, right? Because we're talking about it from the perspective of this is a potential blow up guy, and that's what the Senior Bowl is for, right? We're talking about you watch the players on film and you go through, right? We have a list of guys and we're highlighting guys and we say, hey, check this guy out in person. Check this guy out in person. He's one of those check this guy out in persons, right? Because his stock can rise exponentially. It's just not discussed a lot, and I think that teams will feel comfortable with the way that he plays the run, because we've had edge rushers that come out that are quote unquote projects, right? But they were projects from the perspective of high upside as edge rushers, but playing the run, you're a little bit timid about it, right? And that was the David Ajabo conversation, right? That was, I'm trying to think, is another edge rush, I think, in this past class that went fairly high, but it was a question of how does he hold up against the run?
Will McDonald.
Yeah, we'll make a prime example, right? If you tell me Will McDonald, I definitely think this guy can be a top 50 pick, right? Will McDonald went top 15. But yeah, I think you can definitely circle that as, hey, this guy can come out of here as a pure winner, and I think that's why he's going to the Senior Bowl, right? I think if he expected just to be a fourth, fifth round pick, no problem. I don't even think the Senior Bowl. I don't know if he feels like he has to participate, but he's going because he's going elevate his draft stock. He's going to tell people like, hey, look, I was just in one of the most rare situations, right, that there was just being stuck with Will Anderson and Dallas Turner.
No, 100%, man. I'm excited to see it. And I think he's definitely a top 50 pick, and he's got a chance to really open a lot of eyes down in Mobile because of his power, arm length, and I feel like there's so much more untapped potential because he's not a guy that's full of reps, you know what I mean? Where like we talk about like with certain positions, like there's not a lot of tread on the tires, right? He was kind of rotational behind Dallas Turner and Will, and then he played this year. I think there's still a lot left for him to develop and gain from a knowledge standpoint. I just can't wait to see him down in Mobile next week.
Yep. Well, DP, let's keep this thing going. Let's keep this thing flowing, man. Up next, man, we're talking about Houston, University of Houston edge rusher, man. Year in and year out, they come out with an edge rusher, right? There's a high-profile player, ends up going, second, third round, year in and year out, man. I'm telling you, I got the next guy up, and that is edge rusher Nelson Ceasar, man. And I want to talk about this because this is a really fun prospect, so make sure you stay tuned.
Today's episode of Locked On NFL Draft has been brought to you by PrizePicks. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the odds, against the numbers. Do you want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each and every week. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. Guys, this weekend on PrizePicks, I am taking Lamar Jackson for over 64.5 rush yards in the AFC Championship game versus the Kansas City Chiefs. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Let's bring this thing home. First off, thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being out every day, man. I wanted to show y'all some love real quick. But Nelson Ceasar, edge rusher out of Houston, listed at 6'3", 250 pounds. A young man that, you know, we like you trying to track his trajectory, right? And in terms of like his production, like, you know, last year he was more of a pressure guy. This year he got home, 10 sacks, 4 QB hits, 19 pressures. A guy that, you know, to me, one thing I noticed with him when I was watching him, Keith, was like, first of all, I love his stance at the line of scrimmage. He's low to the ground, right? To give optimal, like, just like a boxer, all your power comes from your base. So he's in the perfect spot, almost like a sprinter, to get ready to put that next foot forward and take off around the edge. Shows good hip fluidity, can bend around the edge. But also, I liked his hands a little bit, to be able to dislodge and work back inside, cross face. He's a two-lane rusher, a two-lane rusher. You know, instead, when people think I'm saying he's from Tulane, he's a two-lane rusher. So I really like what I saw. I remember you talked about it before, and I was like, I got to get my eyes on Nelson Ceasar. And I think this is a guy that has a lot of there's a lot of money for him to be made for him, because those one-on-ones, man, like we know that everybody's gonna come out there and look for the top guys, right? But it's like anything else. That's fine. You can come out here and look for Chris Braswell, Laiatu Latu, some of these other bigger names. But when you go to these one-on-ones, you're gonna see a guy that can actually win and stress these tackles in multitude of ways.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him too, DP. Just because, like I said, my first go around, I watched him. I said, "Oh man, we have something." And I'll be honest, right? Because out of University of Houston, it's been who is the Saints drafted Peyton Turner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Bucks drafted Logan Hall. Was it Logan Hall?
Yes.
Logan Hall, right? Different player. This is a different guy. Though both of those guys, they were 6'5". Long strider type edge rushers, more of you have the question, do they put their hand in the ground? Nah, they kind of, those two guys, they went back and forth between the defensive end and the edge rusher. This guy goes back and forth between edge rusher and stacked linebacker. So a different profile type of football player. And I'm extremely excited about him, DP. Like all of those things you talked about, right? You talked about the functional strength in his hands. Like that was the very first note I took. He's a collision player, right? He plays tough at the line of scrimmage. He backs up to stack linebacker, played the game against Texas at stack linebacker. He's a guy that you can blitz. I talked about it. I'm going to say this comp again. He reminds me of those Patriots linebackers. When you talk about those hybrid front seven guys, you talk about a Jamie Collins-esque type of football player. That's the vibe I got, DP. Now, that's setting the bar really high. I want to ask you, was that somewhat of the vibe that you got also? Like, am I on this island by myself with the Jamie Collins, that type of situation?
No, I don't think so. Like, this he's athletic, but like you said, that versatility that he shows, and then also that versatility speaks to his coachability, to where he's going to do whatever they need defensively to be able to help his team win. Because some guys, no, I want to get after the quarterback, coach. I don't want to play stack backer. I don't want to drop off in coverage. I don't want to do those things. But if the team needs you to, because if a stack backer's out, for the game or gets hurt, it's like, listen, our next guy, there's a drop off. You know what I mean? The guy behind you, we feel more comfortable putting you at stack backer and sliding your back up in, and knowing that we can still handle business, right? And I think that's one of the main things. I think if there's an impact statement that I would say, I expect him to get somebody with a spin move next week, like that, because he sells that outside rush so hard and well that and because he plays with that low shoulder pad, that low hip trajectory, when he's like 2 steps in and with his burst and first step quickness, those tackles have to set and open that inside shoulder, that inside hand, and his spin move is quick, it's low, and it's efficient. And I'm like, somebody's gonna get got with that next week. I got a feeling somebody's gonna see it, and if he does it right, it's gonna be like, you know what, I'm gonna beat somebody with the speed on one of these reps, right? The next time a tackle sees me, he's like, oh, I gotta vertical set him. I gotta get deep on him. And as soon as you get deep, all right, boom, I'm spinning back inside and I'm countering you with the inside quick spin. And you know how they always talk about finishing the spins, go ahead and put that ice pick in the back of the tackle. He does that well. I'm excited to see him, man, because I think this is a guy that, like I said, can do a lot of different things, can wear different hats. But you think about a team, I mean, the Ravens, like, you know what I mean? The Ravens, the Eagles, like these teams that want to keep depth at the edge rusher position.
The Atlanta Falcons, right?
They need somebody like him.
Yeah, they're 3-4-ish type scheme, right? They need another edge rusher, but they also need somebody that can play in the middle. Just to not keep naming the two Ravens, Eagles, Steelers, right? Just to name some teams that's kind of on the upswing and trying to establish our identity defensively. But DP, man, I'm glad you got a chance to get eyes on him, right, and be able to watch him, man, because he's a guy that I'm excited about. He's an under the radar player that I think nobody's discussing. But I thought with the last two guys, right, we talked about Nelson Ceasar, Chris Braswell, both of these guys, DP, I'll say this, man, you probably can comfortably place them in the 3rd round, but you're talking about the opportunity to make money and elevate themselves to mid-second round, top of the 2nd round type prospects. If they have good weeks out there, that's what we're talking about. So listen, we've told you the entire time we did Senior Bowl scouting, right, that The trenches is going to be fun, man. There's going to be a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of volatile players when it comes to the stock, right? Their draft stock is volatile because that thing can shoot all the way up. But man, that wraps up another episode of Senior Bowl Scouting edge rusher episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, man. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in each and every single day, man. Don't forget to comment. We told you, comment after every segment. This is me reminding you. Go ahead, drop a comment. Whether you like these guys, whether you dislike these guys, let's talk about them, man. Or if you have a different edge rush prospect that you want to throw into the bucket, we like talking prospects, man. But listen, man, make sure you hit the like button. Also, but listen, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there. My guy, Damian Parson, man, you can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Please subscribe, hit the automatic downloads, leave a 5-star commented review, man. Let us know what you think about the show, about the podcast, man. And listen, we're gonna start grading y'all mock drafts this draft cycle, everything. So go ahead and comment stuff, and put it in the 5-star comments on the Apple Podcast and Spotify side of things. But listen, it's Friday, man. You guys have a great weekend. We'll be traveling, going down to the Senior Bowl, getting ready to put boots on the ground and see these players up close and personal. And we'll be reporting live back all next week, guys. All 5 days a week that while we're there, we're going to be reporting to you and giving you recaps after the game as well. But listen, you already know to be safe, be healthy, and come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.